Yeah, welcome back everybody. Long time to upload, but finally went ahead and picked up another project. I wasn't planning on getting anything, but I was on a yard sale the other day and I came across this mower for $100 and got it for cheaper than that. Story is on it, it hasn't run in about a year or two. So let me go through a few things to check if any of y'all are ever interested in buying a project like this, something with a small motor. Most lawnmowers, go-karts, dirt bikes, things like that kind of run under the same principles when it comes to looking it over and figuring out what you want to buy, if it's a good project for you, or how much you want to invest in the project. This is a Murray wide body. I think it looks like judging by the serial number, it's a 2000, so it's a little over 20-year-old mower. This is the last of the steel body mowers from what I can remember. Shortly after it was sold, shortly after this, I think Murray was sold off to MTD, which is one of the big, I guess a big 3 or 4 riding lawnmower manufacturers. You got John Deere, which sucks, hate John Deere's. MTD, which they make cheap crap, although their new Cub Cadets have definitely come up in quality. I think they got their own manufacturing facility now just for Cub Cadet. You got AYP, which makes the camera focus on there, Husqvarna, which I have one of them as a project from a year or two ago. I think I did some videos on that one. And then you got Snapper. I like Snapper. They're a bit of a oddball design, but I always liked them. So let's go over what to look for. What do you want in a project? Things of that nature. They said this thing hasn't ran about a year or two. Battery was definitely dead, so I already went ahead and picked up a new battery. Motor turns over, but before I even had a battery there, I had to figure out what's going on with this motor. Was it freed up? Now, this is moving pretty well like that. If it's not moving, not able to move under your own hand, generally speaking, that's seized. If it free spins completely, like right now, it definitely has a compression stroke on there, which is a good sign. That means the motor builds compression, which means it's not blown, or pretty much blown. If it free spins, that usually means that you got a broken connecting rod, broken valve, all sorts of number of things. So that's usually a good sign that it builds up pressure slowly. Now, if you spin it and it comes to a crunchy stop, like you can feel it like a crunch or even just a sharp stop, that's usually like rust in the cylinder walls or maybe even hydro lock. But since it will freely move and then slowly build up pressure, that usually means compression, and that's usually a good sign. I can already tell most likely what's going on with this mower is just looking at these fuel lines and this fuel filter. It runs ethanol, and ethanol over a winter season or two will gum up everything. So most likely a carburetor is gummed up, full of residue basically. And somebody already tried working on it because there's a new spark plug in there. So let's just say, hey, we got it home. Another good thing to look at. Let's take a look inside there. And you can see there's some crap in there already. Let's close that up there. The two big factors on these kind of mowers, on riding mowers, is going to be the motor and the transmission, or the hydro gear in here. This one uses a select transmission, which is just going to be a trans drive on here. As long as everything freely works, and it does, it got positive clicks, that means everything works on there. Sometimes the rods will get bent or broken off, and it'll get stuck in gear. This one's got a hydrostatic drive on there. The fluid has to be changed every once in a while. They don't make them serviceable. Luckily, I think there's one major company that makes them. I think there might be a second or third one out there. But if you can actually call up that transactional manufacturer, and they will get you the parts. I've actually rebuilt one of these. It's a pain, but it's straightforward. But most times, what you're looking for is any leaking or wet spots. I don't see anything around here. Everything looks nice and dry. Same thing with this one here. I mean, this is a good example since I have this in the garage right now because I got to do an oil change on it anyways. But if you see a lot of wetness around there, or obviously there's been a leak, stay away from it unless you want to replace a transmission. It's not fun to do. You're not going to find a good used one usually, and otherwise you're going to have to buy it brand new or rebuild it. But since both of these are dry, that's a good sign. If I recall on these ones, it's been a while since I've worked on these. They still actually make this basic mower, I think under the Husky name with MTD. If I recall correctly. And you still see them around though, the same basic setup with the drive setup. And these been around forever. AYP makes them, which Husqvarna and I think a few other brands. I can't recall them off the top of my head. And then you got MTD, which makes MTD junk. And they're junk. I have nothing nice to say about MTD stuff. It used to be a good brand, but they've gotten cheap through the years. We'll see here. So basically, yeah, we got a new battery in there. Everything actually surprisingly works real well. This is actually, for an over 20-year-old mower, it's in really good shape. There's very little rust. So if there's any rust, it's just surface rust. There's no dents or any real body damage. And these things usually got trashed. Biggest failure points on these mowers is going to be most times, I'd say 75% of the mowers I've come across is going to be the carburetor. Is just gummed up and it needs to either be rebuilt or replaced. You can buy these things for like $25–30 on Amazon and eBay all day long, brand new. I'll try to rebuild it. This one's got a fuel shut-off servo on here, or solenoid, I mean. And sometimes they'll get gummed up. I've actually, well, the old YouTube series I had before all this, I had a snapper I rebuilt, and basically I trashed the motor because the fuel solenoid didn't work correctly, let fuel through, got into the cylinder. Luckily I didn't destroy the motor, but it hydro-locked. That will happen on these mowers. So that's a thing to look out for with these. Make sure these operate correctly, because as you can see it flows down into the motor. Second thing is overheating. They will overheat, usually what happens over winter time. Mice will pack their nesting material up in here, and basically you go to run it, the air draws in through here, passes in here down across the motor to cool it, and well, mouse material in there will not let air pass through, and then it'll overheat and usually warp the block and it's trashed. Since I've already been through the basics, let's go ahead and let me shut this off, and we're going to come back. I'm going to pull the spark plug wire off, check for spark, and we'll go from there. Alright, let's get this off here. Looks like it's had a little bit of an oil leak around this gasket. Not uncommon because these are just stamped steel and there's no reinforcing. Most likely the valves have never been adjusted in this, so it's probably going to need a valve adjustment. Yeah, it looked like a brand new spark plug when I looked at it. Chances are, when it stopped running, they probably threw a new spark plug in there to see if that would get it running. The fuel's been drained out, luckily. Well, lucky or unluckily. Yeah, this is a brand new spark plug. Yep, looks like they've probably run ether in there, judging by the smell of it. It's not exactly wet or anything. So let's test to see if we actually have any spark though. Put it on there. This is a good ground right there. Well, it does have spark. I saw it spark before it fell down. Way to go, me. Alright, let's get the... Look at that spark plug back in there. And let me cut back out of here, and what I'll do is, once I got the spark plug back in here, I'll spray some ether down there and see if she fires up. So, catch you in a second. Just to note, the air filter is actually surprisingly clean in here, which is a nice surprised. When I checked the oil looked fairly new also. I'm guessing they did the basics on here, changed out the air filter and all that, but probably didn't get that far. Open up the throttle, don't turn on the choke. Ah, yeah. My favorite stuff in the whole world. Well, ain't that just a good sign? It runs on ether, which means we need to rebuild the carburetor. Let's see, bring down the camera here. So, most likely I'm going to pull the bowl off of this. There's not a drain plug on here. Matter of fact, I don't see a way to undo the, oh yeah, there it is. So undo the plug on there. And then we'll take the bottom of the bowl off here in a second. And we will go from there. Most likely there ain't nothing left in the carburetor bowl, and it's going to be cruddy. We'll find out here in a second, won't we? Well, it looks like somebody may have been in this once before, because this was very loose on there. Yeah, if you see that whiteness, if we can get a good focus on there, that is a bad sign. Basically, oh yeah, how these work. Basically, the solenoid goes in and out. If I can get a good shot here, to shut off the fuel. But let me see. Ooh. Yep. See, key on, key off, key on. Oh no, that's key off. It goes up in there. And turn the key off, it pulls it back once electricity gets into it. Make sure the key is off because I don't want to burn that out. So at least we know that works. Well, there we go. But that's not a good sign. Oh, yep. Yeah. We're going to need a new carburetor. I can throw it in the parts cleaner and see what we can get out of it, but that's no bueno. So, dang. Well, basically to pull the carburetor off, we got to pull these two bolts off here. Pull this off. It's got a few small bolts up top here that we got to pull this to get this off of here. And then there's these two bolts, one on each side of the carburetor. And then unhook the throttle assembly. Yep. Sweet. Sweet. All together. So, give me a minute here. Let me grab my tools. And we'll get to pulling this carburetor off. Alright, so let's pull the fuel line off first. Well, probably gonna end up cutting it anyways. It's junk anyways. There we go. Yeah, there's crap in the fuel line too. Alright, so we're going to clean the fuel tank out. That's already been decided. Let's see, I can't remember if it's just these two bolts on for this style of motor. It's been a while since I've worked on Briggs & Stratton. Most companies have pretty much gone to a Kohler or Honda copies, Honda GV style motors. But looks like we're going to probably have to buy a new carburetor. Once this stuff dries out, I've found out even with ultrasonic cleaner, it just doesn't ever clean up. Alright, what's holding you on? Is it this part here? Oh, no, you're not gonna. There's that cover there. No, it's gonna be part of that assembly too. Alright. Sweet. Take off these two studs. Like I said, there's one on either side. Make sure you're not spinning the stud and you're just spinning the nut. I mean, it really doesn't matter, I guess. Truth be told. Because it just makes it easier for getting everything on and off. Well, come on, there you go. That would be the PVC port. At least the gasket doesn't look terrible. We'll just clean all that up before we put it back on there. And I forgot about these having those little bolts on there. Let's grab a tool. Yeah, okay. That was on there shockingly easy. Alright, well, before we get too far into that, let's pull off our throttle assemblies. Don't bend it too much. There goes the spring for it too. Make sure we. It's almost like they don't design these things to come apart. Come on. Alright. Looks like we're just going to have to pull you off, aren't we? One little bolt. Two little bolt. And a slide off. Oh boy. Let's see if we got a good focus on that one. Yeah. Well, huh. Is that O-ring? Huh. Oh yeah, the O-ring's still in there. Wow, it's not split either. I think that's the first time I've ever had that happen. It's dirty as anything. It's probably been leaking. And we got the gasket on there too. Yeah. Sweet. Alright, let's get this up on the table here and we'll throw it in the parts cleaner. And oh man, this thing's been mangled. This is the throttle idle mixture and it's bent. How did they bend that? That's just, yeah, it's bent. They bent the screw on it. I wonder why they did that. I don't know how they did that. That's pretty stupid to do. Alright, let's pause the video here for a minute and we'll see what else we can get at here. Alright, we got the carburetor done from parts ultrasonic washer. It cleaned up fairly well. There's still a lot of pitting in there. You can see some of the pits in there. This is made out of pot metal, so it doesn't rust per se, but you can definitely see that the ethanol is really eating in some of the metal. It'd probably work just fine, except for a few issues. This is the needle for the float bowl. I couldn't get it out for some reason. The float wasn't moving, so I pulled it apart. Now that it was cleaned up, everything was able to come apart correctly. And there's no point on there. Get that focus on there. Ooh. Anyways, got the point out of there. It was stuck up inside the carburetor. Apparently these used a rubber needle on top of it. Looks like a stainless steel needle body, I guess. Most of them are usually made out of either brass or a combination of brass and a nylon plastic on the tip to keep them from damaging the inside of the throttle body in case they get turned in too hard or pushed up too hard. The tip is designed to take it. Well, it looks like that rubber tip swelled up on the inside and wasn't going to work. So I went ahead and ordered up a new carburetor. I mean, these kits are like $25. Another reason, this bowl was rusted. Cleaned it out a lot, but this pit right down here is actually fairly deep. I've never seen one of these rust out as bad. I've seen a lot of surface rust, but what it was in there actually dug in there so much that you can actually see it starting to poke through. There's a little dot there where I actually stabbed my pick in there, and it actually went through a little bit. So that bowl was trashed too. So yeah, well, we'll keep it for parts. I'm sure the jets and everything I can clean up there are made out of brass and some of these other oddball things that I seem to lose. Heck, this float's actually in really nice shape. Usually it's very discolored. Now moving on to the mower. Oop, excuse me. And you. Alright. Back to the mower. Alright, so what we're going to probably do in the next day or two, I'm going to pull that cowling off the engine, get in there, clean everything out, take the fuel tank out, because it looks like I got to take the cowling off to get the fuel tank out. We got to clean that, rinse it out real good, wash the whole thing, and replace the fuel line, change out the fuel filter for something that will work, change the oil. The tires are holding there. It's been about 2 or 3 days since I've gotten this mower back to my house, and the tires are still holding there, which is a good sign. And I haven't checked the blades yet. I made a lift for these so I can easily work on them. So I'll show you all that, and it's pretty soon. But I think from there we're gonna get this thing ready to mow. I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this into a mowing. Go through a step-by-step process to make this a good, safe mower to use around your property. I've already got somebody I think lined up for buying this mower or taking it off my hands. Got a neighbor. They got 1.5 acres of land and they're push mowing it, and that sucks. And I feel bad for them, and they're good people, so I'm going to work out a deal with them. I know they're not the richest people in the world, so I'll work out a deal with them with this mower and make sure it goes into good hands. That way they don't have to kill themselves in this summer heat mowing their lawn, because ain't none of us getting younger, and pushing that much push mowing that much grass ain't fun. So we'll make sure the motor runs good, everything works good on it, and I'll have a talk with them, see what we're able to work out on that. Yeah, so we'll leave off right here. The next thing will pop up is pulling that cowl cover off there, getting that fuel tank out, rinsing that tank out, and once I get the cowl cover off there, I'm going to take it outside and get a good proper washing. Get all this crud out of there, get all the grease and oil out of there. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to need to buy a couple more bottles of Simple Green to get all that oil off of there. I don't know if it's leaking oil badly. Well, I guess we'll find out once we get it running. That said, we'll catch you all in a second.